to the SEC Unfiltered platform. I appreciate you guys joining us, listening to all our content on all our channels and platforms. I am your host, Dave Shumate, longtime SEC recruiting personnel staffer, and I am here to give you the top 5 impact players for the Missouri Tigers heading in to 2024. But first, guys, as y'all know, we have to pay bills, and it starts off with our buddies at Prize Picks. Season is just around the corner. Starts in about 3 days with the Georgia Tech-Florida State game. Go to prizepicks.com and use code SECU at sign up to get $50 off instantly, or get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 or more lineup. Guys, I did this last year with that LSU-Florida State game to open up. I think I did a Jay Daniels, Malik Neighbors prop. It's fun, man. Fun, interactive stuff to do. Go check our guys out. Again, get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 or more lineup. But let's get to why you are here. The top 5 impact players for the Missouri Tigers and Eli Drinkwitz heading into 2024. Can they replicate what they did last year and coming off a big Cotton Bowl victory over the Ohio State? Number 5, we're going to go chronological order. Let me spell it out. So we've done this impact series alphabetically here. We're on Missouri, obviously. And I go reverse chronological order in case you didn't know. So we go 5 through 1. So starting off at number 5, Brett Norley, the tight end. Only 195 yards last year on 17 receptions. If you want to go back and watch a game of his from last year, I would encourage you to go watch the LSU and Arkansas games in 2023. Those would be good ones to go back and review if you really want to see what Norley can do. He was an SEC All-Freshman. Made the SEC All-Freshman team last season. Guy's a tough dude. I was doing some research on him, and he played his senior year of high school, or sophomore year of high school, I think, with a labrum tear all season. I mean, I think the doctor told him, look, you're not going to make it worse. I'm going to have to repair it no matter what. So you can either play with it with a brace, and I can go cut you open at the end of the year or whatnot. That's what he did. Apparently, he was a phenomenal pitcher as well. Dude's tough as hell. He really is. He really is. Guy has to get stronger, though. That's something at the point of attack. Learning how to use his hand techniques better, like I mentioned at the point of attack, getting in that weight, strength, and conditioning program, getting in the weight room with Ryan Russell, like I'm sure he has all summer. Ryan Russell's one of the better strength and conditioning coaches in the country. I worked with him at Auburn for a year. But I think Brett Norley takes that next step, because I also think so many teams are going to be game planning for their weapons on the outside with the guys like obviously Luther Burton, Mookie Cooper, Theo Weiss, Mekhi Miller. I think that's going to open up the middle of the field for Brett Norley and Brady Cook to, no pun intended, cook a lot of these defenses. So Brett Norley coming in at number 5 for me. Number 4, we're going to go on the opposite side of the ball. We're going to go to Corey Batoon's crew, the new DC coming over from South Alabama. I'm going to go number 4. This may be my wild card one, most proud of one here is defensive tackle Sterling Webb. A much more under the radar transfer. The defensive tackle transfer, Chris McClellan, coming over from Florida, the Oklahoma native. He gets a lot of the pup. But Sterling Webb may be the secret to replacing the depth along the line of scrimmage on the defensive line. The St. Louis product spent his first 2 collegiate seasons at New Mexico State and quickly became just a menace. A menace in Conference USA last year. Just the quarterbacks in Conference USA, this guy was living in their lap. Go watch the film. Go watch the Auburn game. His sophomore year, Webb pulled in 30 tackles, made 30 tackles, 4.5 sacks, and 6 tackles for a loss, including he had a big TFL late in the game against Auburn. But if the Missouri Tigers are going to regain any kind of consistency that they enjoyed on the defensive line last year and on the interior, like in replacing guys like Jay Jernigan, Relis George, obviously Darius Robinson when he can line up inside and outside, Webb is going to play a key role in eating snaps and blocks in Corey Batoon's defense. I know a lot of people want to put Chris McClellan. I think Sterling Webb was one of the more productive players under the radar ones that's going to be key if Missouri doesn't want to take too much of a drop off on the defensive line after what they lost last year with their upperclassmen. Coming in at number 3, we're staying on defense. We're going to the secondary as well. Another transfer, Toriano Pride, transferring in from Clemson. Obviously, Missouri fans, you lost both Ennis Rakestraw and Chris Abrams-Drain, one of the better dynamic duos in the league last year in the back end. You had Terry Arnold, Kool-Aid McKinstry at Alabama, and then the other duo would probably be in there, Ennis Rakestraw and Chris Abrams-Drain. I remember my recruiting days liking both these guys' films. And I'll be honest, Ennis Rakestraw ended up being a better player I even thought he was. I can admit my faults a little bit. I can admit when I was wrong. I thought he was a little too slight. But you know what? He proved me wrong. He was a phenomenal player in his seasons at Missouri. Pride, like I mentioned, he was at Clemson, so it's a big step up. They need him to step up. At Clemson, he had 37 tackles, 9 pass breakups, had a sack, an interception, and a safety. So he put up some few stats. He was involved, but he was one of the top corner prospects, top corner recruits in the portal. Missouri snagged him early. That's key. He's going to go along, probably start opposite of Drayden Norwood, who stepped in for some injury last year. We'll talk about him a little later. But again, Toriano Pride, I think for this Missouri defense to step up, because they lost so many good players at all 3 levels, lost their coordinator, lost their defensive line coach, lost their edge coach, and lost their safeties coach. So there's not a lot of continuity on that position. They're going to need him to step up. Because I feel like I know what I'm getting in Drayden Norwood. Impact, though, Toriano Pride coming over from Clemson, he's going to have to man up and be one of those and head one of the cornerback positions for Missouri this year if they do not want to take too much of a step back defensively this year. Number 2. It's got to be the signal caller, baby. Brady Cook. We're going back to the offensive side of the ball. Took a massive step in the Kirby Moore system last year. Remember, we didn't even think he was going to win this job until probably around the Kansas State game last year. Threw for over 3,000 yards. 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 66% passer in 2023. I can see that going up a little bit. You really don't want to be below 65% in my history, but you really, or in my experience, I should say. But I think he'll get that up. I mean, he has enough guys protecting him. Armand Mimbo is going to be a good player. Connor Tolson's back at the center spot. He'll be a good player. He's got tons of weapons. Mookie Cooper, Brett Norfleet, who we mentioned, Mekhi Miller, Theo Weiss, Mekhi Johnson could be another kid who steps up. I think a second year in Kirby Moore's, Eli Drinkwitz system is going to be awesome for Brady Cook. Now, I'm one of those guys. I think Brady Cook's more of a product of the system. I think it's a compliment to what Kirby Moore and Eli Drinkwitz has done with him. That's not a shot to Brady Cook. I think he has a ceiling from an upside standpoint, from a raw, natural talent standpoint. I could be wrong. I don't think Brady Cook's going to have a massive career in the NFL. I'm not saying anyone's saying that. I think he's more of a product of the system, but being a second year in that system, knowing he's not looking over his shoulder, competing for the job, this is his team, this is his offense, I think he takes that next step forward too. When you factor in the protection up front, the safety valve he has in Brett Norfleet at the safety spot, and all the weapons he has on the outside. And that brings me to number 1. And you may have mentioned when I was naming off the receivers, the guys like Mookie Cooper, Brett Norfleet, obviously a tight end, but can be a threat in the receiving game. Mekhi Miller, Theo Weiss, Mekhi Johnson. You may be this idiot that even say Luther Burton. That's because Luther Burton, probably the easiest number 1 impact player I've done in this series yet. Luther Burton, the wide receiver, coming in the number 1 impact player for Missouri in 2024. I think he legitimately could be a top 2 to 3 guy in the country that could win the Heisman that does not play the quarterback position. Let me repeat myself. I think he could be the top 2 or 3 guy in the country that's not a quarterback that could win the Heisman Trophy. Again, it's a quarterback award. I mean, who else would you probably put in there? I mean, Quinshon Judkins at Ohio State, Luther Burton. Not missing really anybody else off the top of my head. I feel like I am missing one more guy. But outside of that, I wouldn't think. Ollie Gordon, I guess, at the running back spot. But other than that, it's got to be Luther Burton. And you factor in how well they utilize him, get him the rock. It wouldn't shock me if Luther Burton is in New York City for the award ceremony. I'm not going to say he's going to win it because it's a quarterback award, but I won't be shocked. I really wouldn't. I mean, he went for over 1,100 yards last year, 83 receptions, averaged 14 yards per reception, tallied up 18 touchdowns. I think that number goes up. I think the touchdown number goes up this year. Again, second season, just like Brady Cook with Kirby Moore as the OC. Kirby Moore, Eli Drinkwitz. I think these two and Lane Kiffin last year did the best job of getting their playmakers the ball, moving him around, getting him in jet motions, get him the ball out in the screen game, running flood routes to get him open. And then just from a standpoint of getting the ball into his hands, the playmaker, it also helps his other teammates because their teams are trying to double him. They're bracketing him. It's going to put guys like Theo Weiss, Mookie Cooper, and Brett Norfleet in the middle of the field, who I think is going to dominate the middle of the field with Brady Cook this year, in more one-on-one situations. And those guys win their one-on-one situations more times than not. Mookie Cooper would be, Luther Burton is a massive impact player, not only for what he can do when the ball's in his hands, but for what he can do for his teammates when they're bracketing, double teaming him. Because again, that's a compliment to Eli Drinkwitz and offensive coordinator Kirby Moore, what they're doing with Luther Burton. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's almost what Steve Sarkisian was doing with Devontae Smith back in the 2020, the COVID season when Alabama won it all, using the whirlbit motions. Just get the ball in your playmakers' hands. College football coaches at times overcomplicate their system. Just, hey, get it to the playmakers, guys. Keep it simple, stupid. So Luther Burton coming in at number 1. Some guys that just missed the cut. But Johnny Walker at the edge joker spot for Corey Bertune. I think he's kind of the big name coming back on that defensive front. Obviously, he could have been in it. But I thought more of the interior depth from Sterling Webb, probably from an impact. Remember, the impact. I'm not ranking best players, just who could have a bigger impact for that defense. I think we know what we're going to get with Johnny Walker. So that's why I put Webb on there. Marcus Carroll, the running back transfer from Georgia State. Nate Noel, I'm throwing them together. The running back transfer from App State. Can they replace what Cody Schrader did last year? I mean, I think even Luther Burton will help them in the jet sweep game and the run game. People are going to be focusing on him on the perimeter. It's going to open up some holes between the tackles for both Carroll and Nate Noel. Again, trying to replace Cody Schrader's production. I think it's be more by committee approach this year. So that's why I didn't put either one of them in there. Chris McClellan, I brought him up in the defensive tackle spot. I think he gets the pub because he was the higher rated recruit. But I'm telling you guys, from a depth standpoint, be looking for our guy Sterling Webb, the New Mexico State transfer. And then obviously I mentioned the other one as well. Drayden Norwood would be another kid at the corner spot because he played some when Ennis Rakestraw went down with an injury last year. It's Ennis Rakestraw or Chris Abrams ran. I couldn't remember. One of them was out for a little bit. Norwood came in and played well. But I feel like I know what I'm getting with him. Toriano Pride coming over from Clemson, manning one of those other cornerback spots, is going to have a bigger impact on Missouri's season, in my opinion. But just recapping the top 5 impact players for the Missouri Tigers heading into 2024. Coming in at number 5, tight end Brett Norfleet has a real shot to go dominate in the middle of the field. Just got to shore up some of the hand techniques at the point of attack and get stronger in the weight room, like I'm sure he has with Ryan Russell this offseason. Number 4, I keep saying it, New Mexico State transfer defensive tackle Sterling Webb was a menace in Conference USA last year. At the very least, he will help that depth on the interior of the defensive line. Number 3, corner Toriano Pride coming over from Clemson. He has to step up with Drayden Norwood and kind of remove that relief that they lost from losing Chris Abrams Drain and Ennis Rakestraw. Toriano Pride is one of the key factors on defense. I think he will step up. Number 2, QB1. You hear it on all these segments. Most important position in the game, most important position in all sports, the quarterback position. Brady Cook, year 2 under Kirby Moore. I think he takes a massive step. I think his completion percentage at 66% improves. I think he has a big year, just very comfortable within the system. And number 1, wide receiver Luther Burton. Do it all guy. Get the ball in his hand. I mean, if you're Luther Burton, you got to love the system you play with. Your head coach who's an offensive guy in Eli Drinkwitz, your offensive coordinator in his second year trust you. They like to get the ball in your hands any way possible in the perimeter, in the run game, vertically, winning it at all 3 levels in the passing game. Luther Burton, again, one of the top 3 guys I think that could win the Heisman, who could be at the ceremony come mid-December in New York. That does not play the quarterback position. So I'm fired up about Luther Burton. But that's it, guys. 1 through 5, the top 5 impact players for the Missouri Tigers and Eli Drinkwitz heading into 2024. Can they replicate it? Schedule's there. I think bare minimum the Missouri Tigers are sitting at 9-3. Can they get to 10-2? Like I've told people all offseason, that A&M game going to be massive. They'll be undefeated. Missouri will be undefeated rolling into that game. That game will be massive, I think, in the outcome of the SEC season and college football season in general. But I appreciate you joining us on this segment of the top 5 impact players for Missouri heading into 2024. Again, I'm your host, Dave Shumate, coming at you from the SEC Unfiltered channel. We cover all things SEC, basketball, football, basketball, and baseball. Go like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You don't want to miss any of the content we have coming at you with football season right around the corner.